2311 and Front Row Motorsports will lose their charters in 2 days unless their latest court motion is successful.
2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports have plunged into one of the most intense and consequential legal battles in NASCAR history, a struggle that could reshape the very fabric of the sport. At the heart of this conflict lies the NASCAR charter system, a mechanism that guarantees certain teams a spot on the starting grid and provides a critical revenue stream from NASCAR's lucrative media rights deals. For teams like 2311 Racing, co-owned by basketball legend Michael Jordan and NASCAR superstar Denny Hamlin, and Front Row Motorsports, the charter is not just a piece of paper. It is the lifeblood of their operations, the cornerstone of financial stability, and a guarantee of competitive presence. The legal fight escalated dramatically in June 2025 when a 3-judge panel from the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals vacated the preliminary injunction that had protected these teams since December 2024, effectively granting NASCAR the right to revoke and sell their charters at will. This ruling sent shockwaves through the NASCAR community, thrusting 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports into a precarious position where their very ability to compete on equal footing was under threat. Reacting swiftly to this setback, both teams filed for a renewed preliminary injunction and a temporary restraining order to prevent NASCAR from selling their charters while the case continues through the courts. The outcome of this filing could determine whether these teams maintain their chartered status for the remainder of the 2025 season or are forced to race as open teams without the guaranteed grid spots, guaranteed revenue, and stability that chartered teams enjoy. The financial ramifications are staggering. Chartered teams receive a significant share of NASCAR's multi-billion-dollar media rights revenue, ensuring substantial income regardless of race finishes, while open teams earn far less and must qualify purely on speed, putting their participation at constant risk. Losing charter status could void lucrative contracts with sponsors and drivers alike, potentially crippling the team's future. For 2311 Racing, which fields 3 cars, the number 23 Toyota Camry driven by Bubba Wallace, the number 35 for Riley Herbst, and the number 45 for Tyler Reddick. Such a loss would be catastrophic. Denny Hamlin has been vocal and unyielding about the gravity of the situation. On his podcast, Actions Detrimental, he detailed that the latest legal filings were driven by revelations uncovered during discovery, exposing what he described as a series of monopolistic acts committed by NASCAR and the France family, who have governed stock car racing for generations. Much of this evidence remains redacted, fueling speculation that it contains sensitive information potentially damaging to NASCAR's reputation and operational practices. Hamlin's confidence is rooted in this evidence, believing that the status quo of charter ownership should remain intact until the trial concludes in December 2025. If we prevail in December, how do you get that charter back if it's sold now? You can't, Hamlin explained, underscoring the irreversible damage that premature charter sales would inflict on his team. Jeffrey Kessler, the attorney representing 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, released a statement affirming their legal strategy. The motion for a renewed injunction and restraining order was filed to protect the team's ability to race chartered for the remainder of the 2025 Cup Series season and prevent irreparable business harm until the case can be heard at trial. Kessler emphasized that new evidence surfaced through the discovery process overwhelmingly supports their position and necessitates legal protection. While the court's earlier decision to vacate the injunction was based on the teams not demonstrating a likelihood of success on their antitrust claims, the plaintiffs argue that this new evidence fundamentally alters the legal landscape. Despite the ongoing legal turmoil, Hamlin remains committed to racing. He insists that 2311 Racing will compete whether as chartered or open teams, though the financial and competitive disadvantages of losing charter status are undeniable. Open teams face the uncertainty of qualifying on speed alone, with the risk of missing races and losing critical playoff points, a blow to any team's championship aspirations. Both Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick remain playoff contenders, and missing even a single race could derail their seasons. Hamlin openly acknowledged these risks, but expressed hope that the court's decision would allow the teams to maintain their charters and focus on racing. The origins of this high-stakes lawsuit date back to October 2024, when 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports initiated an antitrust suit against NASCAR, challenging the updated charter agreement and accusing the sanctioning body led by the France family of anti-competitive and monopolistic behavior. The initial preliminary injunction granted in December 2024 allowed the teams to race as chartered entries while the case moved forward, including the transfer of 2 charters from Stewart-Haas Racing to the plaintiffs. However, the tide turned in June 2025 when the U.S. Court of Appeals overturned that injunction, placing the team's charter status in jeopardy. This legal battle extends far beyond just the 2 teams involved. The implications could reshape NASCAR's business model and how it governs its teams. The charter system, introduced to stabilize team participation and financial structures, might undergo fundamental changes if the court sides with 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports' allegations of monopolistic conduct. The France family's stewardship of NASCAR, long seen as benevolent but controlling, is under intense scrutiny. The discovery process has apparently unearthed documents and communications that the plaintiffs argue show deliberate efforts to suppress competition and control team operations in ways that violate antitrust laws. The legal drama is compounded by the sensitive and heavily redacted nature of much of the evidence, suggesting that the plaintiffs have uncovered information that NASCAR would prefer to keep private. The court will have to weigh this evidence carefully as it decides whether the balance of harms favors maintaining the team's charter status during litigation. The December 1st trial looms large as the definitive moment when this multi-month battle will be decided. But until then, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports fight to keep their foothold in NASCAR's premier series. For NASCAR, this lawsuit represents a rare challenge to its authority and operational framework. A ruling against NASCAR could force the sanctioning body to alter its revenue-sharing models, re-examine the charter system's legality, and potentially open the door for a more competitive, less monopolized sport. It raises fundamental questions about how motorsports leagues govern themselves and how much control they should exert over participating teams. NASCAR's legal team undoubtedly views this case as a critical defense of its established system and business interests. Meanwhile, fans, sponsors, and stakeholders watch closely, aware that the outcome will have ripple effects throughout the sport. The loss of charter status for 2311 Racing or Front Row Motorsports could mean fewer competitive cars, less financial security for drivers and teams, and a shifting power dynamic within the sport. On the other hand, a legal victory for the plaintiffs could democratize the sport, increase opportunities for new entrants, and challenge NASCAR to become more transparent and equitable. In the midst of this, 2311 Racing's ownership embodies a fascinating convergence of sports legends and modern racing entrepreneurship. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest athletes in history, partnered with Denny Hamlin, a celebrated driver and team owner, to create a powerhouse team that has quickly become a fan favorite. Their legal fight transcends sports. It is a battle for fairness, control, and survival in a high-stakes business where millions of dollars and legacies hang in the balance. As the case unfolds, one thing is clear. The stakes have never been higher for 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, NASCAR, and the future of stock car racing itself. The drama on the track is now matched by a courtroom battle that could redefine the sports landscape for decades to come. Whether the court side with tradition or challenge the status quo, the outcome will be a landmark moment in motorsports history, watched closely by fans, insiders, and legal experts alike.